thank you all for joining. We're really excited to be talking about this with you today. What we're going to be going over is the unified revenue journey between the Revenue Cloud and Spiff aspect. And we've got some great speakers here today who are going to shed some more light into the entire end-to-end revenue process here. So I'm going to actually introduce everyone that we have speaking today and start handing it over here to, oops, sorry about that. Start handing it over here to our Salesforce side of things. So we'll start off with Michael and Steve here and then jump over to our Cloudality side with Ben.
Awesome. Thanks, Amara. Hi, everyone. My name is Michael Colhane. I lead our Salesforce SPM team. I am based out of New York City and have been with Salesforce for just over 5 years. So really appreciate everyone coming and looking forward to the session today. Steve?
Thanks, Michael. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, depending on where you are. My name is Steve May. I'm a director in our Revenue Cloud practice. I'm located in San Francisco. I've been with Salesforce, believe it or not, since 2006. And before all that, I was a CPA, and now I've been in Revenue Cloud for the last 6 years. And it's a really great, innovative space to be in, and happy to talk to you all today about what we're doing at Salesforce.
Awesome. And Ben Appa here on the Cloudality side. I run go-to-market and solution engineering here. I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem for almost 18 years, and I've been focusing really on optimizing the quote to cash and revenue journey for organizations over the last 10 years or so. I've been a part of dozens of CPQ and Revenue Cloud implementations, and today I'm really excited to help enrich your perspective on what it could mean for your business to leverage Revenue Cloud as it stands today with a solution like Spiff for comp and performance management. And this may be for you or your team or you know, really your entire organization. So as you get a chance to interact with us and ask questions in our Q&A panel, please don't feel afraid to ask really challenging ones, because that's what we're used to facing. And that's really my goal here at Cloudality, is to answer those challenging questions.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. I'll go last here. I know I've been speaking a little bit already, but I'm Amara Swinford. I'm on the Cloudality side, and I work in the sales team. So my background's more heavy on the sales performance management and Spiff side of things. Been working in the consulting side for several years now. When Salesforce made their acquisition of Spiff, I started working closely with the Salesforce ecosystem in this area. So really excited to be bringing everyone together here for this. What we're going to be going over today is we're going to jump into the Revenue Cloud Advanced side of things, and then we'll be jumping into more on the Spiff and sales performance management side. And we'll give you a brief demo on both sides, and then tying them all together for you as well to show you how this unified revenue journey really comes together for everyone. And then lastly, we would love to open it up to the audience and do some Q&A with everyone. You can ask questions throughout, and we'll be answering them towards the end. And then if you want to interact during this as well, we're excited to continue speaking on this with you. So awesome. All right. I'm going to hand this over to Ben here.
Perfect. Thanks, Tamara. Yeah, so as the team mentioned, and really, you know, as the call script is outlined, right, we're here to paint the revenue picture through a new lens, really, a more encompassing lens. So many of you have probably seen a lot of demos, or you've been a part of various, you know, RevOps, sales, business ecosystems with different points of view and posturing around the importance of the sales lifecycle, governance, automation, having a solid product master, customer master, what that means to driving like optimal outcomes through the revenue journey for your business, and really what that means to realizing more revenue and being a more successful business, right? So in practice, though, what really drives the people that drive revenue, right? That's kind of the inflection point of this call. What really matters to salespeople and to sales leaders. And actually, to take that a step further, how can we behaviorally condition revenue producers to do more in their day-to-day, in their month-to-month, that impacts our company's performance and bottom line? So this really brings us to our all-encompassing problem statement, right? Disconnected or maybe even just immature systems drive gaps in how growing businesses execute. And through the lens of revenue, that really means that gaps between the CRM systems and sales process, those pieces that drive sales cycle governance, quote and order lifecycle automation, pipeline outcomes for a business, also have a systemic impact really on performance and compensation outcomes. So this can lead to either negative sales behavior or sales team behavior, or just a heavy operational and finance strain, right? How do I manage this? How do I address questions of performance statements, comp statements, et cetera, and really use manual processes to solve these day to day. So for this, really our goal is a single shared record to drive accurate pipeline visibility. And we're going to get into more details of this in a minute, but getting rich sales insights, one source of truth for the team, company, and individual performance and comp. Leveraging native Salesforce Sales Cloud, Revenue Cloud, and Spiff, you do all of this not just in one platform, but you can do it on a single record, that opportunity view. And really, you can create what is essentially a cockpit for managing comp and performance. So ultimately, for sales to be able to say and feel confident that what I sell is what I get paid on, right? That's ultimately the goal, to drive clarity, provide sharp and effective conditioning, and really even prioritization around what a salesperson does each day. So we'll dive into more details as we move forward. Mara, if you want to go to the next slide. All right, so here's a view of what this looks like down a flatline path, right? We're keeping it a little bit more simple and happy path right now. We'll dive into a little bit more detail and kind of a more robust view here in a moment. But we know that every revenue journey or life cycle, or let's just call it a sales path, right? They won't all look this simple, but the journey starts where every sales team already lives, the opportunity in Salesforce, right? If you're using Salesforce today and you're leveraging Sales Cloud, from opportunity creation into quote creation, we enrich the pipeline, right? We understand the products we're selling and whether the deal hits performance milestones as it moves, as it closes, as it's ordered, as it's fulfilled or provisioned, what have you, or even as an existing subscription or service is renewed. All sales people, we understand this path, we've lived it, but we've never had the luxury of knowing is what is actually going to get paid as we're negotiating a transaction with our customer. We didn't have the benefit of knowing what a deal means to our paycheck. And that's what Commission Estimator changes, a single pane on the opportunity in real time. Now we do, right? Now we see it that way. And so this is a simpler journey. As you guys see this stuff and you have questions, feel free to add them. You'll probably get a lot more detail and see some of this repeated as we go. So I'll pause there real quick. Steve, Michael, if you have anything to add.
I'll jump in. It feels like every customer presentation, every demo, every discovery that we do, that this part of the conversation is becoming more and more relevant. Where I think as I introduced myself, I'm the Revenue Cloud guy, but we get into sometimes complex, sometimes standard revenue ops use cases for ultimately realizing revenue, that our customers are realizing revenue, and then more and more we're just seeing this. It's so much more frequently. It's like, so how does my rep know what I'm going to get paid? What is the value of this deal? We hope that Revenue Cloud is giving clarity on what the value of the deal is to the company, but sometimes it's not as clear as what is the value of the deal to me personally. And I'm actually a seller. I'm a manager of sellers, and certainly it's important to all. It's important to me. It's important to all sellers, and it's just amazing, especially I think since Spiff has come online the last few years, this conversation has become more and more relevant and important. So I think if you're if you're asking these similar questions like we're seeing almost every day, I think hopefully you're going to get a lot out of this, where we're going with this webinar.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I would add to what Steve mentioned is I think one of the big things that we continuously hear on the SPM side is being able to do all of this in one pane of glass or in one system, right? So if sales teams are living inside of Salesforce, doing all the great things with Revenue Cloud of building quotes and making sure that pricing is meeting expectations, how are we driving the right behaviors to those sales teams, showing them that carrot of what they're going to get paid, to Steve's point, right? So just bringing it all into one pane of glass, I think, is one of the things we continuously hear out in the field from our customers is, you know, typically customers would be quoting inside of Salesforce and then their sales teams would have some spreadsheet living somewhere that they would go try to calculate what they're going to get paid on a certain deal. And being able to unify those two processes into a single system really creates that single pane of glass and creates one type of complete experience for the sales teams to have throughout the entire sales journey.
Yeah, so true. And not to mention, right, like today's business is so mobile, it's so virtual, right? And sales reps are on their phone, they're on their laptops, they're on their, you know, their iPads or whatever they're on, their tablets, right? And they don't want to traverse through multiple records. In fact, these days they want to be able to speak into something and say, what does my paycheck look like, right? And most of them can't even fathom what that would look like, frankly, without a robust solution or without somebody putting that in place. And really, that's what we're speaking about. And it's not like rocket science anymore. It's just there as long as it's configured, pieced together the right way. And all of those things can be at your fingertips or at your voice, right? So good stuff. Awesome. So this is the part where I geek out a little bit for just a moment. I won't go into too much detail because you're going to see some of this on the demo, but really the way I like to frame up the engine behind your revenue motion, which is really what I'm speaking to there is Revenue Cloud, is that sales reps will live and die by four main things, right? How fast they can quote, how accurately they can structure complex deals. And in this day and age, they get more complex, right? How cleanly they can execute renewals. I think in almost every walk of life today, we're looking at recurring revenue and SaaS or some sort of services that repeat and are cyclical. And there's a longer customer life cycle. There's a hopefully a never-ending customer life cycle. And then lastly, how much visibility they have and what do they already own inside of their book of business, right? So with ARM, as you may have heard it, or Revenue Cloud, you know, if you hear those different naming conventions, ARM is Agentforce Revenue Management. It's on the Salesforce platform. It's Revenue Cloud, as I refer to it today. That improves across the board, and each one flows directly into quota attainment and comp in different ways, which I'll elaborate on here in a little bit. But first, ARM gives you a faster quote to close, really because everything is native on Salesforce. So quoting sits on the native order and asset objects. So there's no managed package overhead. There are a lot of packages out there in the ecosystem that are behind this kind of gated wall of like, what does this do and how do I do it and how do I maintain it? Even the legacy Salesforce package did this and no longer, right? Agentforce revenue agents can create, summarize, amend, and send quotes directly so that the rep isn't fighting configuration screens, right? Sales users don't even have to go in and build quotes today if you configure an agent to do it for them. They're having a conversation with the platform like we just talked about, right? Your quote lifecycle times drop because all of those, all that pricing logic, all of those procedures and standard fields, all of those things get pre-filled. Approval weights shrink because threshold-based approvals are driven by the rules we set up in the engine. Standard cases get pre-screened before deal desk ever even sees them. And so ideally that means your quote will flow right through without requiring approval because your sales reps are informed of what those thresholds are as they're configuring, or an agent will tell them. There's fewer rework loops because pricing floors and product rules are enforced at the quote level through pricing procedures, the constraint rules, all of those, you know, building blocks that are behind the scenes. So it's not caught later by finance, right? And there's rework or customer strain. Ramp deals. This is an area where ARM has really genuinely exceeded expectations, mine specifically, but also many of our customers, right? So if you carried a bag on legacy CP2 platforms, or you have battle scars from what you faced previously or what you're facing today, really ramps meant contract loans, they meant manual segment creation, they meant a bunch of custom manual process. Even if the system was there, it wasn't mature or rich enough to be able to seamlessly drive this process, praying that amendments wouldn't break the schedule, right? So in Revenue Cloud, advanced ramp deals are a first-class citizen of the platform. You can structure escalators, midterm quantity changes, co-terms, all in a single transaction. The billing schedule reflects correctly the first time. Ramped total contract value is captured accurately at the time of booking, which is what most modern comp plans actually pay on, right? So you'll see ramp deals live in the demo in a few minutes, but this is a hugely influential part of most business pricing models today, and really a very, very rich feature set in Revenue Cloud. And then renewals, the quiet killer on quota, right? So in legacy CPQ, renewal visibility lived in a spreadsheet or a dashboard that lagged reality by a quarter sometimes, right? In Revenue Cloud, assets and contracts live together on core Salesforce objects. So renewals show up in the same view reps already used for pipeline, right on the account, using the opportunity, right? Auto renewal terms, renewal dates, price uplifts, all those attributes, they live on the asset itself. It's not a bolt-on. And reps see what's renewing, when it's renewing, when uplift applies at the time of renewal. Renewal quotes can generate from the asset, not from some clone contract. The data stays clean. And Agentforce can proactively draft renewal quotes and flag at-risk renewals by the rep before they slip. And so really this is real asset lifecycle management, from the assets tab or the account, amend, renew, cancel, swap, auto renew, all of those different motions. Every lifecycle event has a downstream billing and recognition consequence that's handled natively with the full history on one timeline, and in a very digestible visual way. So, and to add to this real briefly, right, one more amazingly powerful tool in Revenue Cloud is Dynamic Revenue Orchestrator. It's a bit of a misunderstood module, but really in a nutshell, this takes the commercial order that the rep sold and decomposes it into all of the technical pieces that actually need to be provisioned, fulfilled, and or billed and or recognize revenue for, right? So orchestrating every step inside of Salesforce. So that's just a brief walkthrough. You'll see some of this stuff live on demo in a moment. Ask questions as we go, of course. But now that you're done hearing me geek out on Revenue Cloud, I'll pause to see if anybody else has anything to add about Revenue Cloud. Wink, wink, Steve.
I'll just add one thing, Ben. I think I mentioned that I'm sitting in the San Francisco Tower, that I do have coverage across the majority of the country and the customers I serve. And you talk a lot about SaaS constructs, which of course we have a lot of customers that are in those kind of businesses. It's amazing to me how many manufacturers are now coming on to Revenue Cloud, and that's, I think, part of that, or certainly an important part of that, is the sophistication of the configurator, bundling products, bundling components. They're discreetly manufactured, and there is a very different payment compensation element that comes along with that type of business. It's very different than a high-tech business. And so if the audience is out there in the manufacturing world and things like gross margin and distributions and volume and those types of things are an important part of your revenue operations, and therefore probably an important part of your compensation, I think you should be confident that this combined solution could also handle those kinds of use cases.
Yeah, 1000%. I mean, we're seeing it address industries that it never could. I mean, you touched on a few of them, but certainly services and manufacturing, complex bomb health and life science, industry that, where there's manufacturing and services and software, right? Like all of those things combined together. I mean, we're seeing it just touch so many other industries than it ever did before, the power of the platform for sure. So. All right, I'll keep moving through for time's sake, right? We've got some other cool stuff to cover. This is, the goal of this slide was really, right, we looked at the straight line sales rep journey earlier. This is a more of a robust view, as I mentioned, right, where we understand the revenue journey may look like in a modern sales organization, multifaceted, starting with the opportunity, right? So from the moment a qualified deal comes into existence, it should become an opportunity record. And if it's not today, we understand sometimes that's a process, sometimes that's a system thing. Those are the sorts of things we can help guide you through and what that looks like. But that's really the first moment when we start driving change and impact to our earnings visibility in most cases, right? And for those of you that have Spiff already, this of course can do a lot for you today, even without a Revenue Cloud, even into the quote lifecycle, right? Revenue Cloud, if I didn't mention already, leverages the native quote object. So adopting it just really allows you to begin enriching the insights that you get. It gives you so much more to drive product level insights, deal margin calculations, location-based, attribute-based, various pricing insights that enrich or even are sometimes required and prerequisite to reflect true real-time estimates of comp and performance. And then as the deal matures, whether that's through the quote lifecycle or through your sales methodology, and your sales deal becomes stronger and that deal score becomes higher, the performance forecasts become hardened and enriched with the latest deals in the in Salesforce. So you can see as we go through that lifecycle, and even as you start reaching those order orchestration, fulfillment, provisioning, whatever those milestones are that sometimes drive performance and comp, they are enriching your performance forecasts and sometimes even triggering your compensation and commissions release, right? So those things all live and breathe in the same system, and to the point we made earlier, can be seen from one pane. So this is the part of the conversation where I'm going to turn it over to Michael. If you have any comments on this slide, Michael, and I know he's going to talk some more cool stuff about Spiff.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. And I think one of the unique things about this entire process is the different parts of your organization that are impacted by this. So when we start to think about the payoff of being able to unify these different processes onto a single platform, like Ben was talking about, really there are three key teams that I think benefit the most from this, starting with sales, right? So everybody right now is trying to drive, how do we make our sales teams more efficient and more effective and improve performance? Being able to do that inside of a single system where while they're building out an opportunity or a quote, they can see that commission or commission potential right in the flow of work really drives the right types of behaviors. And being able to eliminate the shadow accounting spreadsheets that are going on in the side, even if there's another platform in place or bouncing between two screens, that productivity gain gives them more time to sell back in the field, which I think is something every organization is looking for. For sales operations or revenue operations teams, how do you better understand what the business is actually performing on or doing? How do I reduce the amount of disputes, whether it's from, quote creation questions or comp questions? Being able to leverage an intelligent system like Salesforce for that end-to-end process really helps reduce that and helps sales ops teams spend time in more critical areas, like evaluating where in the business do we need our sales teams to focus. And that really also ties into the leadership side. So understanding how we're performing, having trust in the performance from a revenue perspective, and then also being able to see, are our teams selling the right types of solutions that are tied to our most critical KPIs? As an example of that, I was actually talking to a customer last year who used Salesforce for the entire quoting and pricing module, and then also had Spiff. And what they realized was that their sales teams were primarily selling their lowest margin products, and they averaged their average contract length with us was about 1.5 years. They're a publicly traded company. They're very focused on margin. They're very focused on committed revenue over time. And so what they did, because of the power of the platform and the flexibility of the platform with the ability to make changes quickly, was they capped the amount of quota attainment and commission that a salesperson could make on those lowest margin products, and also included a new comp component for an extra kicker for multi-year deals. And so what did they see by the next quarter? They saw a massive increase in their reps selling a majority of their deals with their highest margin products, and their average contract length went up to 5 years. And so in a matter of a couple of months, they were starting to see benefit that really drove the business forward and aligned to those KPIs that the business was so focused on, because of the ability to do it in one platform in a flexible and meaningful way. And so we talked a little bit about RevCloud. We can hop more into Spiff on the next slide. Unless, Amara, was there something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I was just going to say we did have a question come in. So as we're switching to the next slide, I'm going to put you on the spot here, Michael.
Oh boy, here we go.
The question is Spiff part of RCA or RCB, or is it a separate paid add-on?
So it is a separate solution, but the solutions work very seamlessly together. So in terms of like licensing, they are different licenses, but I would think more about the experience that you're looking for your sales teams to have. And if you want to explore that, we're obviously happy to have that conversation as well.
Thank you.
So more about Spiff, and Ben geeked out on Revenue Cloud, so I'm going to try to match my geeking out on Spiff, although he's a little more technical than I am, so not sure I'll be able to achieve that, but here we go. So as we kind of talked about, right, I think one of the things that we hear so often from sales teams is there's been a transparency gap when it comes to compensation, and a gap of real-time visibility. And so one of the biggest powers of the Spiff platform, in my opinion, is that ability for sales teams to see not only what they're going to potentially earn in real time, or what they're earning in real time against what's closed, but also there's a couple different mechanisms to understand what could I get paid if certain things happen. So whether it's on the opportunity object with commission estimator and being able to see exactly how much a discount, an increase in discounting is going to impact your commission, or even in the statement, being able to see your open pipeline and understanding based on what the deal is structured at right now, how much would I earn if this deal closed? So you not only get to see real time, what have I earned up to this time or up to this date, and where am I tracking towards my goals, but you also can start to project out your earnings into the future, which as somebody who also leads a sales team, that's extremely important. We always make the joke, right? Like sales reps want to know when they can buy their next car. And so being able to forecast out how much they're going to earn is extremely powerful for them. And then we start to think about more of the back end, right? Of being able to automate calculations. Typically, this is happening in spreadsheets, or if it's legacy systems, it's very cumbersome for teams to manage. As Steve pointed out, we've gone live with Spiff at Salesforce for over 30,000 sellers. And one of the biggest things that I've realized is how much faster our calculations are happening in Spiff. With the legacy system we used to leverage, we would maybe get an update of the prior month, like 15 days after the month, to understand where we're going to earn. Now with Spiff, we are seeing where we are month to date on a regular basis inside of the platform, driving that type of behavior that we want to have. And it also then ties into that plan transparency, understanding very clearly what am I getting paid on and how am I getting paid. So being able to dive into the traceability of calculations really gives sales teams that extra insight into why is this number what it is, and how can I rectify or understand the calculation behind it to give me more of that transparency and understanding of how my plan was built. And then last but not least, one of the things that I specifically love as a leader is being able to understand how are my teams stack ranked from an attainment perspective, because it then gives me the ability to understand which reps are earning the most, what are they doing in order to do that, and how do I replicate that across my entire team? Because at the end of the day, what people are earning is, if the top earners are doing the things we want them to do, because compensation plans are purpose built to drive specific behaviors. And if those reps are if those reps have those behaviors, then they're going to be more successful. And those are the behaviors I want to replicate across my entire team. And so being able to do all of that inside of Salesforce, inside of my flow of work that I live in every day, is an extremely powerful tool, not only as a leader, but for my teams at large.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. Awesome. And we're going to go into now a bit of a demo. We're going to show you the revenue side cloud of things. Revenue side cloud. Wow, I can't talk right now. The revenue side of things, and then we're going to jump into the Spiff side of things. So you'll hear from a couple of our amazing solution architects who have been able to put this together for us today. Feel free to continue asking questions as we go through this, and we'll have time in a little bit to continue on with some more questions.
So I'm going to start with the amend and extend. I already created the contract. It has the assets. I did set the contract to have been activated in the past. So I set the date on the quote at 10/14/2025 with an end date of 10/14/2026. I'm going to go ahead and go over to my assets, and we're going to amend these starting today and click save, and that has updated. I'm going to change this end date from 10/14/2026 to 10/14/2027, and I'm going to save it. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the training as well. Again, it doesn't have to be click in, change. It can all be right there on the front end, but just showing you how I do it on here. So now I'm going to hit refresh to refresh our pricing. Notice right now that's 0. This is $100.27. Now, because we've updated it an additional year, that yearly cost has updated to 100. Not only did our year update here, but also our quantity did, and that's reflective here. So we just see update here, we see quantity and update here. So our quote looks great. Everything was prorated appropriately. I'm going to click create order. I'm going to do a single order, click finish. And now, because the contract already exists, it's not going to create a new contract or anything. The contract will already be here. I don't have any flows in place, sorry, to do this. So I'm just going to put something here, test. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yes. And here, 1, 2, 3, test. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yes. And then our build to contact will be Edna, because she's the only name in here I know. I'll hit save. So everything should be good. So now I should be able to activate this. Yep, did it perfectly. I'm going to come over to my contract, and in my assets, I'll hit refresh just to make sure all that good information gets fed over. We'll give it a start date of today and an end date of the year from today. So that would be the 14th. Yep. We want to do this by ramp schedule group. It is ramped and it is yearly. So I'm going to save that. Training, we had LLM, yes, LLM. There's our first year. And then I'm going to clone this segment. Here's year 2. And then I'm going to clone this segment again. Wait for this to finish. Beautiful. Out of the box, these currently do not compound. So for the purposes of this demo, I am going to just do the math myself. However, this can actually be added into your pricing procedure as a calculation if you need it to be. For this demo, I'm just going to do it myself. Beautiful. Once that's all updated, you can see that we have a 5% increase on year 2 and a 10.25 in year 3, so that our price goes from 100 to 105, 150 to 157, and etc. So that looks good. We're going to go ahead and create this order, single order. And I am going to create my contract. I'm going to activate my contract. And on our dashboard, we can see the ramp. So this is year 1, year 2, year 3. So our prices are increasing year over year. Let's amend these. And because you wanted to see in 5 months, we're actually going to set our amendment date 5 months in the future. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're just going to do today, submit. And now you're going to see these are the fulfilled ramp segments. This is what has already been fulfilled by your contract or will be fulfilled in those 5 months. And this is what you're wanting to do now. So I'm going to increase the quantity here to 2 on both of these. And let's say each year they want to go up an additional 2. So here we're going to go 4. And here we're going to go 6. Now we're going to click save. Here's our order with our fulfilled segments showing here. This is what will have been fulfilled. And this is what we're going to be adding. Again, billing address is not set to come over on this guy. So apologies while I do this. That's fine. I misspelled even test. Hashtag winning. Test TS 100 US. And then I'm going to pop right into the LM training. And on our related tab, we can see we had our initial sale, and then we have an upsell that's happening. And down here, you can see our dates are reflective. So we actually have that upsell happening around here. And then we have our dashboard. That's what I was looking for. Let's go give it a little peeky peek. We should see our asset action as an upsell. Yes, we did. We see the date is reflective. Very good. And on our dashboard, we should see, yep, we do. Our quantity increases and our monthly revenue increases. I hope this is helpful. I'm looking forward to hearing any questions you may have.
Let's take a look at what these deals from the comp side, like in Spiff. From this overall view right now, this is for Chloe Garnier. And from this view, we can see her total commissions, statement status, rep numbers. All these are straight from Revenue Cloud data. Nothing here is a spreadsheet, reconciliation after fact. It's connected in real time. From what I can see here, this tells me that Chloe can see her year-to-date commission for this period at $237,000. Her annual attainment right now sitting around 48% against a $1.2 million quota, all in one view. This commission trend chart spanning 12 months gives her a clear picture of how her earnings are tracking without a single spreadsheet. This is the transparency that drives the deal behavior. When they see the number, they will push harder or sell more or manage their quotas more appropriately. Take a look at her first payout. That's more for future potential commission, which shows $10,000, 550 cents. And if we open this wheel up, it will tell me exactly which deals are pending closing in the future date. And this is what allow Chloe to see, hey, if I close these deals, what will be my commissions as a result and in the next period. Again, this will allow the users to manage their deals more appropriately throughout the upcoming period and quarter, so they can ultimately hit their quotas if needed, or hit their accelerators or whatever it happens to be. When we open up these new bookings and upsells and clawbacks, these are more milestone commission calculations, both fired when a deal closes, clawback rule fires, whether it be as a result of amendment, cancellation, modifications. The fact that these callbacks are automated and visible, here's a powerful message. No surprises to your end, no manual reconciliation, just government math running in the background on every single event, whatever those events happens to be. Unfortunately for Chloe this month, she's a little behind. So then she knows she may need to close a few more deals to push her overall commissions into the positive territory. And these balances can also be carried into the next period should the company that you have any negative balance that needs to be recovered first. The commission breakdown donut up here really tells you the whole story, because you can then see what's driving the net minus $1,300, which if it's usually when it's positive, people don't ask as much, but as soon as it's negative, people will take a look at this. But it gives you that confidentiality that you're really looking for, so that from one single data truth, from one data source, and there's no room for a dispute how the numbers were derived. And then in case we do have recoverable guarantees that we need to manage, there's also that can be shown here.
Awesome. All right. We're going to jump into here just tying everything together of everything that you just saw and everything that we were speaking to before here. So I'm going to hand this back over to the team to jump in and just tie everything back together for us.
Sure. I'll just jump in on the Revenue Cloud side. This top part of the chart will be a little bit of a Revenue Cloud 101 in 35 seconds. But what we're delivering ultimately is a set of capabilities across the revenue operations lifecycle. Product configuration and the catalog management is a critical piece to what Revenue Cloud has to offer. So if you have standard products, if you have a few products, if you have thousands of products, if you have bundling and attributes and rules and constraints that drive your product catalog management, know that Revenue Cloud will be there to assist you along the way. As it's been mentioned several times in this meeting, the ability to quickly quote for a sales rep is really the lifeblood of the business. We don't want to have salespeople frustrated with their quoting experience. We want that to be quick, easy, and efficient. And that's the configure price quote part of it. If you're a legacy CPQ user, you may not be used to the middle bubble. It's just the contracts piece. And the contracts piece is new with Revenue Cloud Advanced. It's the ability to handle redlining, clause libraries, all in an agentic layer for formulating contracts for your legal people or for your salespeople to interact with your customers on typically on the legal terms or the product terms associated with contracts. And then everything on the right side is, what we just discussed is the selling experience. You're obligating your customers to pay for your products or services, and as a salesperson, their job is done. But there's so much more that happens afterwards. How do those products get delivered to the customer? How are they provisioned? What is the billing characteristics of it? Are they billed all at once and up front? Are they billed at a particular milestone? And what are the schedules that kind of drive that billing? Are all going to be handled by Revenue Cloud on the right hand side. Of course, with every deployment of Revenue Cloud, ERP systems play an important role in this. How we interact with ERP systems, ultimately that is the general ledger, and the source of truth for the financial statements of your company. So that's an important piece of how these revenue transactions make it there, and we kit up these journal entries and other data to facilitate that process. And people like Cloudality do a nice job of understanding those integration patterns to your ERP system. I'm going to let Mike kind of touch on, okay, that's what the rep sold, but what are they getting paid? I'll let Mike, I'll let you kind of touch on that.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. And I think one of the things that's, we keep coming back to is being able to have this unified experience across the entire life cycle. And so as the demo showed, there's that view in the statement of being able to see what have I earned, but what are my potential earnings? And I think as your sales teams are going through the revenue journey of creating contracts, creating quotes, producing orders, getting orders fulfilled with billing, that always ties into commissions. And I think similarly to how Steve was talking about the integrations to ERPs for Revenue Cloud, it's the same thing on the Spiff and commission side. Very often there are either ERP systems or HRIS systems like Workday that we have to connect to in order to send to payroll. Because at the end of the day, commissions is something that is being paid out. And so what's great about Spiff is the ability to flexibly integrate with those types of solutions. And similarly to what Steve said on the Revenue Cloud side, our partners like Cloudality understand that very well and how to make sure that those are set up optimally. I think the biggest message here, again, team, is that across the board, being able to unify an experience like this across one single platform for your entire sales organization is really the biggest value add that we see and what we hear from customers. Being able to have a single pane of glass, one place to work. Also talking to CFOs and CIOs regularly, one of the big focuses that they have is being able to consolidate their tech stack and standardize on a single platform, because as we continue growing in this AI era, being able to leverage one system of record for this entire process allows you to more optimally deploy AI versus using different point solutions that makes it difficult for an AI agent to understand what's happening in one place versus another, along with the different governance and security protocols that come in with that. So I think as all of us are embarking on this AI journey, the single platform is really an advantage. And I think this unified experience really exemplifies that and helps your sales teams go to market a lot more effectively and efficiently.
Thanks, Michael. And yeah, to that point, it's interesting to see different sales performance management solutions and where they get stuck. One of the areas is that AI tool that they could use potentially within their system gets really stuck only in that system. So what you're pointing out, Michael, right there is such a great point where this is unifying everything together, being able to utilize your AI through both systems, through your entire tech stack without having that segmentation between different solutions. So awesome. Oh, all right. We're going to open up the floor here to any other questions that come in. We'll give everyone a minute to start submitting some, but would love to hear from everyone. And then we can start throwing some questions at you, Michael and Steve and Ben.
Awesome. Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah. And while folks are doing that, I would, I'd just like to say that there are a couple things we didn't touch on too much, right? One of them was billing. We didn't talk too much about that. Steve, you hit the nail on the head pretty well there. And that not only is billing a possibility on platform and leveraging, native objects that Revenue Cloud Billing provides, it's also extensible to back office platforms like none of the other legacy solutions were. And I'm not just talking Salesforce legacy solutions. There are a lot of legacy CPQ solutions that were not necessarily super extensible to the various ERPs that we see commonly today. And the framework was really built with that in mind. So you didn't hear us talk about CPQ a lot, right? Every time you heard me mention CPQ is like legacy CPQ before it. There's a reason for that. Revenue Cloud it's not a CPQ solution. It's so much more than that, right? And that's why you see CPQ just being a subcomponent of really the revenue platform ecosystem, because it is at each step, that catalog management framework, the CPQ framework, the contracts framework, getting the ability to do contract lifecycle management on platform, leveraging native features, right? And this isn't just that, hey, we have a contracts object. This is like, I can generate contracts and sales agreements. I could redline and negotiate contracts and agreements. I can build a full clause library with conditional outputs and dynamic clause sets and all of these things that in the past, I needed a separate platform for. So we start talking about all these disparate systems that we've had to use previously and historically across each one of these components that no longer needs additional components, needs additional licenses. I mean, in this modern age, tech sprawl is just so massive. And our goal with Revenue Cloud is to make sure we're leveraging as much of those robust features and modules to reduce tech sprawl and to reduce swivel chair and to centralize all the data that your AI and your business operations need to automate around. So anyway, hopefully I paused long enough for us to surface some questions, and it's easy for me to geek out, of course.
So love it. Well, I'm actually going to hand this one back to you two here. And Steve, feel free to shed any light if you have anything to add. But the first one here we have is we're already on CPQ. What does Revenue Cloud actually add? And is the migration worth the disruption for our organization?
Yeah, so I'll take a first swag at that real quick. And you know, I touched on some of those things already. And in trying to avoid any repetition, right, I'll kind of pick up at the contracts piece. I mentioned Salesforce contracts. There's a whole new layer of extensibility around generating sales agreements and managing agreement milestones that drive billing outcomes, that drive fulfillment outcomes. And so that contracts management module is much richer and more robust than it ever was. Taking a step back to that product catalog management framework, in the past, we've struggled to work across multiple sales channels. We start talking about product-led growth. We start talking about commerce channels. We start talking about value-added resellers. We start talking about all of these external sales channels that need a centralized product catalog framework. In the past, legacy solutions required other either customization or heavy integrations or PIM systems or whatever those things may be. Those are all on platform now and scalable at volume and at speed. And then I did mention revenue orchestration, but that module just allows us to orchestrate everything across existing tech stacks. So it really disembourdens that problem you have in migrating to a new Revenue Cloud solution, right? Like just kind of touching on the second half of that. If you guys, and this is very common for us, we hear the pain of like, this is a big disruption to our business. How do we do this in a way that we can realize value sooner and not heavily impact the business, right? And a big way that we do that is we create a phased approach, right? So we will get those foundational elements in place that don't take a step back, right? Take a step forward, get you in this modernized quote to cash framework, but give you scalability to eventually offset another solution for provisioning orchestration or for fulfillment orchestration or for billing and revenue orchestration. While we may not do that in phase one, we have the composable layers to do that in a phased way that this becomes more palatable for you guys to realize business value sooner. Yeah, I don't know, Steve, if you want to add anything. So.
I'd be happy to, but I'm also sensitive to time. If Amara, I'll leave it to you if I can jump in or.
Yep, feel free. Yeah.
Okay. I'll just kind of add. First of all, it's a great question, and it's an important one. For the questioner, please know that CPQ is very much still supported, and it's not going anywhere. So I want you to have that confidence. I think I'd be transparent in saying that Revenue Cloud is the Salesforce future. That's where we are innovating. And the differences are significant in so many ways. Ben definitely touched on some of them. I'm going to just layer on just a few more. First of all, I would say the user interface is dramatically different. So how it looks and behaves to your sales rep, if you were to get a demo of it, you would see a very different experience than maybe what you're used to with the quote line editor in CPQ. And then foundationally, you may be aware, if you're on the technology side, that CPQ is a managed package. Revenue Cloud Advanced is not. It is purely on platform. Those are all standard objects that we're now leveraging. And that really took the handcuffs off of our product team to enhance and innovate like we just couldn't quite achieve with that managed package. And that really drove a lot of the decision-making and why we did come out with Revenue Cloud Advanced. There's a lot more to go into there. I'm going to pause there. But I do appreciate the question. And reach out to me, reach out to Salesforce if we can answer that question further for you.
Thank you. All right. I'll make sure we get one in here for Michael too. So Michael, this one came in for you. When a quote changes after a rep has already seen a projected commission, how fast does that update the flow through and avoid any confusion or disputes?
Sorry, can you say that one more time?
Yeah. So when a quote changes after a rep has already seen a projected commission, how fast does that update the flow through to avoid any confusion or disputes on the rep statement?
Yeah. So what's great about Spiff is the ability to connect to data in a real-time fashion. So if things are changing on an opportunity or on a quote, or even after a sale is complete, once Spiff picks up that change, it's going to automatically show that change to the salesperson, letting them know of anything that's impacted their potential earnings. So whether that's before the sale is booked and in the pre-sales process, they're updating discount percentages, they're increasing their discount percentages, they're going to see in real time what that can do to their compensation. If they're looking in their statement and a value of an opportunity changed from $100,000 to $80,000, they're going to see that in real time as well. And same thing if a commission payment has already been distributed, but there is a clawback for whatever reason, they are going to be able to see that and drill into why that clawback happened. So what's, again, one of the biggest benefits of Spiff is the way that we ingest data and make that real-time visibility more available to reps versus the legacy systems out there that might give you an update 15 days into the following month.
Thank you. So I think we got time for maybe one more with a quick answer here. I'm going to open it up to any of you here. This one's coming in asking, is there a timeline of which product you should be working on first when it comes to purchasing and implementations?
I'll jump in. I think Mike and I are going to give two completely different answers on this, but it's a fair question. I think there's so much business process questions that kind of drive that answer, and I think it's priority of the business, what they need, where the value is in the short term and the long term. Tough to answer honestly in a blanket kind of way, but I think what we have done today is shown you the flow, hopefully giving you a good idea of the flow of these transactions from quoting to comp, quoting, billing, and comp. But I think I just hesitate to answer that in a blanket kind of way. But please ask your Salesforce people if they have the opinion on it.
No, I agree with you, Steve. I think obviously it comes down to the prioritization of the business. I do strongly believe, though, that these tools are very intertwined from a sales experience perspective. And so, again, to my point earlier, if the goal of the business is to drive sales efficiency and effectiveness, there's an appetite there should be an appetite to explore both. But to Steve's point, I think understanding prioritization of the business is key. And then the solutions are going to be able to drive value and drive value quickly, regardless of which one you start with. And I would challenge you to think of if you're looking to do a sales transformation, like the entire process should be within scope, in my opinion. But
Ben, do you have any insight there?
I was just going to say quickly, right? Like these are the curveballs we get quite frequently. And Steve's point is exactly right. In fact, he almost gave my consultant answer, which is it depends, right? But the truth of the matter is it really does depend on priorities and objectives. And that's our goal to unpack and understand better. We can build these into a phased approach. It's not unusual for them to be a part of the same first phase. But it's also not unusual for us to say, hey, we need a comp or performance solution now, or we need to get off of our existing platform within a certain period of time. And we address those in an informed and an intelligent way to kind of give you the most value sooner rather than later. So
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. I know we're at time here. We're just over by a minute, so just want to wrap things up. Really appreciate everyone taking the time to meet with us today and join the webinar. If any other questions come up as you're, rethinking about this later today, feel free to reach out. We will also be posting this recording on our YouTube channel as well. So if there's anyone who missed this and would like to see it, we're happy to share it with you. Awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks so much for your time, everybody. Take care.
Take care.